Fire it up and we can talk about whatever while it's booting itself. I don't know. I think we're on. Are we on? This is the
Are
first.
we?
I say that every time. First thing I say on the show is, "Are we on?" Every week. You'd think at some point I'd figure this damn thing out. Good morning, everybody. No, yeah, it's morning still here on the Pacific side of the country. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, listeners, followers, viewers, chat roomers. Good morning, Brew.
Oh, I didn't think you were going to include me, Dan.
Oh yeah.
How are you doing?
You get top billing, which means you're the and or whatever, like at the end of the show, and featuring Aaron Bruski as the guy on the top right corner.
I always like that at the end of movies. They got all the stars, and there's like 5 different classifications of stars, and at the end, it's featuring.
Yeah.
It's usually featuring the old dude that's on his way out, and they like feel bad for him. They're like, "Yeah, we'll probably just give you a featuring at the end of the credits. That'll make him feel better."
Sort of, yeah. Although sometimes lately I've seen them do it with the biggest name, like Homeland. I think went with. Well, I mean, I guess Claire Danes is the big one, but then Mandy Patinkin was always last. And it's like, oh, Mandy Patinkin, man. He's freaking Princess Bride. This is Mandy Patinkin we're talking about here. Who apparently
that's that dude's name?
Yeah, he's the man. Inigo Montoya.
Dread Pirate Roberts?
The Inigo Montoya?
Oh, and Inigo Montoya, that's that dude?
Yeah, it's a little Jewish guy. Oh, Mandy Patinkin.
Well,
yeah, he has like
I thought he was a Spaniard.
No, he has like a CD of klezmer music that he played. So let me find this out. He's like apparently really difficult to work with. Also, what is this? What is this?
Man, you're ruining all sorts of stuff for me.
Sorry, he was also the guy in the Lipitor commercial, coming down the staircase slowly. I love it. He's so good. He's so good in Homeland.
A Lipitor, like
was the cholesterol.
Did he have like a "I've fallen and I can't get up" moment going down the stairs because he had too much Lipitor or something?
It was a really chill Lipitor commercial. It was like Mandy Patinkin slowly coming down a staircase, talking to you about your HDLs and your LDLs. That's all I got.
Did he bring any of the Princess Bride into that?
He did not, and I'm having trouble finding the music that he's done. It's funny. It's funny and it's kind of cool. And Mandy Patinkin's awesome.
I just watched that the other day.
It was like, you watch what?
I just watched Princess Bride the other day.
Oh,
it's just an amazing movie, and it was the climb up the cliff scene and then the sword fight.
Oh, fantastic sequence. How good, by the way, are Wallace Shawn and Andre the Giant in that movie?
Andre the Giant's excellent, and man, at one point they pan out to the far away view of him going up the cliff, and in one scene he's like really struggling to just go like 1 mile an hour, and then in the next scene he is flying up the cliff at just a rocket pace, and then obviously the Dread Pirate Roberts is much faster.
The Dread Pirate Roberts, I believe, who. I have no idea who actually played that.
That's Carrie Ewells.
Is that Carrie Elwes?
Is that what it is? Elwes?
Was that the main? Yeah, that's right. That was Carrie Elwes. Yeah, of course. I don't know how I could forget that one.
And then didn't he do Robin Hood Men in Tights?
He did do Robin Hood Men in Tights.
That was the culmination of an amazing career right there.
He was also in Hot Shots, I think. Wasn't he in Hot Shots also?
Oh, yeah.
He had a series of great comedies in his early career.
No, what's he doing now?
He was on Psych a couple times, and he got fat, like real fat. I don't know. I still love him too. From all
I'm
this,
fat as hell right now, and I don't know. I have no idea why I'm laughing at that. Like,
I can't.
It happens.
I have the weird curse of being blessed with a very finicky digestive system. So anytime I would eat enough to potentially gain weight, I just get like totally sick to my stomach.
See, but you would have said the same thing about Carrie Ewells or whatever the hell his name is.
I thought.
You would, no way that dude's getting fat. It's going to be one day it'll be fat Dan Besbris. and you'll do that. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
Oh my God. The day that happens.
Like, is better than you.
I give you permission to off me that day. I don't know what we got going on. It's a weird Friday. Christmas is around the corner. What say we go into silent mode for 10 seconds, and then we'll actually fire this bad boy up?
I don't know if I'm capable, Dan.
It's fine. I'm going to turn the microphones off. I got it on this funky doohickey here in front of me. All right, we'll be right back, guys. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, live on Friday. It's a live Q&A on YouTube. I'm Dan Besbris. He is Aaron Bruski. We already said hello during the pre-show, where today we spent 6 minutes talking about Carrie Elwes. Bro, what's up, man?
I'm trying to recover, man.
We're weird.
You gotta get there for the live show, because we're even stupider than we are right now on the live show.
Yeah, and, it's hard to imagine.
But could you really picture Dan Besbris as an extremely overweight person?
You could, actually, and may he rest in peace.
You know what? You could look like, what's his name from Globo Gym. You might be able to pull that off.
Ben Stiller when he gets fat?
Yeah, we just throw a mustache on you.
Ooh, mustache? Is that a mustache?
Hey, you know what? Maybe we're talking mustaches today.
Mustaches today. Yeah, the I don't know, man. I don't want to spend too much time on my digestive system. That's for most of the other shows I do, but it is fragile. Let's just use that word for it. It is fragile. It's been a weird week, Brew. Fantasy perspective, you had a couple of big injuries. We had some trade results come through. We had a lot of short-term injuries. I wanted to call this stream week before Chris Paul and Bobby Portis got the longer price tags on their injury. So how was stream week for you as we get ready for Christmas time?
You know, I don't do a lot of streaming. I'm mostly in roto leagues. You know, I like a good weekly league because I just, you know, I understand everybody loves daily leagues. They, you know, get more bang for the buck, especially if you play in 1 or 2 or 3 leagues. You can really just get in there and just have fun with it. So definitely not dissing that. But when you get dragged into 15 leagues and you just need something of a respite, you know, weekly leagues are where it's at for me. But no, I've been, you know, I got a really important league and I completely blew a lineup decision. I kept Nikola Mirotic in, just completely didn't get
you had said you didn't want to do it anymore.
I know, I did say that. And you know, it's the main over at the NFBKC. I'm doing well, and it's just like, what am I doing here? Like, I could have easily done something different, you know, and had Thomas Bryant for 4 games in a lineup, and that would have been perfectly fine with me. But no, I had Mirotic in, and it's a lot of that stuff, you know, around the league. New Orleans is terrible for injury reporting. I just got to throw that out there.
Sounds like Julius Randle might play tonight, though, so I guess there's that. Everybody in the NBA is catching the flu also. It's that time of year.
Well, John Wall caught the flu, so that's how you know it's real.
Hey, how about that amazing sequence of John Wall? Did you see the video bouncing around on Twitter of John Wall that was tagged as John Wall's PlayStation controller broke mid-play?
Is that the old one, or did he do another one?
That's the new one in their most recent game, where he just stood there for like 14 seconds completely motionless on offense.
Oh, well, I mean, was that in the last 2 games with his buddy Trevor Ariza back?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was. Oh, it's crazy, and it's amazing, and it's brilliant, and it's so cool that he even has like that weird video game bob, right, where the players in the game never stand completely still. They just sort of like wobble ever so gently in place, and he just watched his teammates run around on offense for like 10 seconds. It's amazing.
Scott Brooks is the perfect coach for this team, because he's never going to just get in there and tell people what to do. You know, he let the OKC group, you know, push him around, and they basically liked Kendrick Perkins. This is a KD and Russell Westbrook thing, and we're seeing many years later what their, you know, basketball IQ, you know, really is. And you know, they wanted Kendrick Perkins, so they got Kendrick Perkins. They never, you know, Brooks never interfered with the offense then. He's not going to probably interfere with the offense now. He's going to play his veterans to try to keep, you know, his voice on the floor to some degree. That means Jeff Green's going to play. Now it's Trevor Ariza. I mean, 38 minutes in his debut, followed by 36 in the Sega Baba. Like, what? I mean, of course, you know, it makes perfect sense. So, like, Trevor Ariza owners have to be thrilled. But John Wall, Bradley Beal, this is not getting fixed, I don't think, with the Trevor Ariza edition. And now they got to figure out what to do with Otto Porter.
Yeah, that's going to be my question, actually. That's one of the things I wanted to go over during our places we can go in the NBA today. What happens when Porter comes back? How does that lineup shift? Because even, as recently as their last game, which I think was Tuesday, they've had 2 games off, right? I think the last game was Tuesday. You saw just a boatload of minutes for Ariza, and then there were all these sort of weird peripheral minute guys, and Jeff Green had 38 minutes, and Dwight Howard apparently is targeting a return in like a month and a half, and Thomas Satoransky couldn't find usage rate if he was standing right in front of it again with these other guys on the floor. Who actually stays above water? And Thomas Bryant only played 14 minutes in that game too, and Markieff Morris only played 7. What's about to happen?
I mean, I think you're going to see Ariza stay in the starting lineup, and I wouldn't be shocked if he continues to play some terribly large amount of minutes that you don't expect a player with his mileage and age to play. So Otto Porter's in trouble, man. Like, this is a classic Scott Brooks situation. He's already been sort of at odds with Porter, and really nobody knows why. So it would be interesting to figure out the why, if that's just simply John Wall might have a problem with them. Bradley Beal might have a problem with them. I mean, this is a guy you want on the floor. Yeah, he's had some injury issues, but whatever might be going on there, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And Brooks already came out and said Ariza was a starter. So I think he's locked into 30, 32 minutes. And
could they all start? Could you see Porter at the 3 and Ariza at the 4, or vice versa? Like, could we see a very Thibodeau-esque 4 guys playing 35 minutes a night with sort of one question mark at the center spot? Is that a possibility?
I think it is. I think it would be smart. If you're not going to play Thomas Bryant 25-ish minutes, you're really going out there with Jeff Green or Markieff Morris as your center.
Holy
and I'm
moly.
sorry.
Jeff Green.
That's crazy. I also don't get – I can see Sam Decker getting minutes at center. Like, Sam Decker, to me, is a classic Scott Brooks player, and he could be right in there, just like Jason Smith was.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
So probably aim at those 4 guys, and then the rest maybe more of a wait and see.
Here's the thing with Bryant. Obviously I've added him in a lot of places, so I'm rooting for him. But the valuation on him is top 160 to 180 in 9 and 8 cat leagues, respectively, in his 18 minutes per game. So in the last one, he got 24. I really think if you're serious about playing basketball in the NBA, you have to have a center that's not named Jeff Green or Markieff Morris. Or Sam Decker. You just can't go out there and make that your 5-man. Like, that's just completely absurd. So what's the answer to that? Thomas Bryant's not much bigger than those guys, but he can get up there, block some shots. He can give you some semblance of credibility. I think 24 minutes. So now you look at those evaluations, top 160. You add about a quarter, 25% additional value. I think he can get into top 100 range in 9 cat leagues if he gets the 24 minutes. And then I think in 8 cat leagues, he's probably looking at top 120. The hope you would have for adding a guy like that is that he can actually somehow break through all of that and maybe get up into the 26, 28-minute range. It's going to take a little bit for him. He's got to get comfortable. He's also playing within a dumpster fire, so it's really hard to get too excited about that upside. But, these low-minute producers, you want to try to get a chip on them when you can. That way, if they do get free, you do get that mid-round upside. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough times, I think, for Markieff Morris, and Jeff Green can't do anything with the minutes that he gets, but he is Scott Brooks' favorite. So I don't see him exiting. I could see 25 and 25 for Green and Morris, and maybe like 27 for Porter. And that would be a big decrease in Otto Porter's value.
The other side of that trade, as long as we'll tie it all together, is Phoenix. We got to see Kelly Oubre in his first game with the Suns, who, by the way, are streaking right now. The streaking Phoenix Suns. And Oubre looked good. DeAnthony Melton did nothing, which sort of reflects, I think, what we said on our premium show on Monday, which is that there just sort of isn't enough available at the point guard spot when they want to give 15 to 20 minutes to Jamal Crawford, and they want Devin Booker to play the point for 10 to 15 minutes also. The small forward, power forward chunk that basically includes all 48 minutes at small forward and whatever TJ Warren's not playing at the 4, was split on Wednesday between Mchale Bridges, Kelly Oubre, and Josh Jackson. And they all had, I felt like we sort of learned something about all of them. Oubre looked like he actually was an okay fit. He's never going to be a great field goal percentage guy. Bridges actually looked like he might be finding a little, I know it wasn't a great line, but he managed to get some shots up. He took them almost exclusively from three-point land. And then Josh Jackson is your typical, at some point his percentages are going to kill you in a regular format, but is there something there in points league? So, Brew, what do you think about those 3 guys? Can anybody separate themselves? Could they all be relevant? Where are you leaning?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been super critical of the Suns for a while, and to the point where people that don't even follow me or I follow them are blocking me on Twitter.
It's true. This is true, by the way. Brew, you said something so mean about the Suns.
Honestly,
Suns blogosphere.
Like, I preemptively block you from reading anything I do. Yeah. Anyway, they look good, man, and they've somehow managed to take a complete mistake where they weren't going to get Kelly Oubre and turn it into Kelly Oubre, who is a bright young player in this league. He's got so much upside. He's still raw. He hasn't really been given a chance to really be a part of an offense. He steps right in his first game, and he does well. I was looking at their lineup. They had, I want to say, Booker and Bridges and Warren on the floor with like Ayton, and you started to see the outline of a really athletic, rangy team where the high usage guys in Booker and Ayton are surrounded by low usage guys like Bridges. Warren's obviously a high usage guy, but like you get Bridges in there, Rashawn Holmes, and you start seeing court balance for them. They need a point guard. If they could flip TJ Warren for a point guard, that would be great. Warren, though, right now, I don't know if this trade did this or how they appeared to be so balanced over the last 4 games, but I don't know that I would be just giving away TJ Warren at this point. If they learn something through this process by getting a Kelly Oubre, maybe they just have a little bit more confidence. Maybe Devin Booker settles down a little bit and takes better shots. I'm actually bullish on them. They're the 15th team in the West right now. So I think fantasy wise, Kelly Oubre is a hold. I want to see Bridges. I want to see this Bridges thing out. Like he gets in there, has like a 7 money counting stat game, and just shows you that it's possible. He can be kind of a Robert Covington-esque type of a player. And, I can't get away from that. We'll let it run here a little bit longer. But everybody else, Booker will be fine. Warren will be fine. Holmes is going to be fine. Ayton, I think, is getting pushed by Holmes. For what they've been over the last couple of years, I'm pretty excited about where the Suns are heading. So I didn't think I'd be saying that this week. And, they almost didn't have it. And the funny thing is Memphis scuttled a trade where they got a great asset in Oubre because of the difference between the Brookses, which, Dylan Brooks, Marshawn Brooks, like, take your pick. You just lost out on Kelly Oubre. So, congrats, Memphis.
Yeah. When I did my appearance this week on VSiN with Gil, he bid me farewell as Marshawn Besbris, so that was fun, just to make sure everybody knew which one I was. I'm Marshawn Besbris. I'm not Dylan Besbris. Other names on the list to cover, and we got to go the Chris Paul avenue because, frankly, that game last night is one that, to me, created a lot of things worth exploring on today's podcast. Anything to do in Houston with Paul down? It feels like Gerald Green is the guy that could potentially go from not at all useful to fantasy relevant. But then beyond him, it just kind of seems like there's going to be a crap load more Eric Gordon, even more James Harden, more Capella, more PJ Tucker. Does anybody swing the needle? Is Gerald Green the closest, and does he actually make it over the cut line?
There's a couple things that are going to happen here. Eric Gordon is ripe for a shooting regression. He's been shooting 36% all year, and that's, just not where he's typically at. You can pretty much bank on him hitting 40% of his shots. So at some point in time, he's going to have to shoot 43, 44%. He had 50% of his shots in the last one, or actually, I don't know what he hit last night.
35%. So back down.
Attaboy. It's coming one of these days. Yeah, so I think he's somewhere you look. He's obviously got to pick up the pace. And it's not like we have this amazing body of work to point at anytime Chris Paul's been out that he's been good this year. But he has to be good for however long Paul is out for Houston to be, sort of tread water. I don't think folks are ready to jump off the boat, playoff picture-wise with them. But, it's a tough West. And right now they're in the 8th slot. So,
and tied with half the West. It seems like they're tied with half the Western Conference, by the way, in that 8th spot.
The 4 through 14 slots are separated by 4 games, I believe.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
That's before Phoenix gets good and makes their playoff run. Kidding, sort of.
Yeah.
The thing I think that might be under the radar here is Austin Rivers needs to go play somewhere. Now, yes, Chris Paul wants to kill him. Like that could happen.
Well, Chris Paul's out. He can't chase after him right now.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny too, like a lot of that dysfunction in LA, there's a Doc Rivers, for one that, could easily have been adding to that fire. Blake Griffin, if you're Chris Paul and you're set, I mean, I don't know how this ties in, but you're set to make $40 million a year next year, the year after that, and the year after that. You might be looking at this and saying, things could get ugly in a little bit. He could easily not be on the floor, if I had to guess, during the final year of his deal, like just because he's so broken down. This hamstring, I mean, he hurts himself on basic like plays. He's not this explosive player that has this extraordinary push. He just on a simple drive to the lane is going to be at risk of hurting something. And so I think he might be more open to Austin Rivers than you would think. And Austin Rivers in this particular offense, granted, I would probably, if I'm the Rockets, rather have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. But, Rivers in this offense, I think could easily be top 100. And, it's somebody that they could need in the short term. How that works in the long term, with at least 3 guys that need the ball in their hands to be good, that would remain to be seen. But KCP is the guy, I think. Yeah,
because he could actually be decent even after Chris Paul comes back. Whereas with Rivers, I don't know about that.
He can be a small ball 3, and they really need that. They need somebody that can play up into the forward positions. And he's a guy that's known for, I don't know about this year, but, he's known for his defense in the past. And, he doesn't need the ball in his hands, and he will shoot when called upon. So yeah. I think that KCP is the guy that they should be targeting. But if you're looking for fringy guys in deeper leagues that could possibly step into this vacuum, it's those 2.
Yeah, I think they'd rather bring Gordon off the bench too, which also lends itself to bringing in someone that could play the 2 or the 3, which you get in KCP. On the other side of that game last night, Brew, and Miami's a team that you and I talk about basically weekly on this podcast because I think we're both convinced that something is going to emerge from this madness, and we might be starting to see the first few wrinkles of it. Number one, we'd been talking about how petrified we were of Goran Dragic basically since the second week of the year, right? I feel like you said that every Friday on this show, and now he's out for 2 months. And we get to see, I mean, he hasn't played that much recently anyway, but we get to see the team now completely without him. Dion Waiters apparently is close, heaven forbid. Justice Winslow didn't play last night either. But all of those caveats set aside, Josh Richardson, very safe. He's an easy one. Hassan Whiteside, as long as he's healthy, he's starting and playing 22 to 25 minutes. That seems to be his window, which he and Bam Adebayo are basically sharing the center spot right now. If we sort of, and we can even talk about Bam if you'd like to in that one as well, it seems like Derek Jones Jr., Tyler Johnson are sort of, and Kelly Olynyk, sorry, I almost left out Kelly, my favorite guy of the bunch, are sort of beginning to rise above the fray with that team. Are you seeing the same thing I am?
Yeah, I am. And, obviously addition by subtraction and this Goran Dragic thing is a pretty big deal. If he comes back this season, he'll come back in a reduced role, I believe. Unless the Heat are really struggling. They could also be looking at tanking by that time. So that could also play into some of these other guys' values. Justice Winslow is going to be the de facto point guard for this team on a team full of them. Tyler Johnson's going to get additional run. I don't know that it puts either guy above the top 150, but I think it does open things up for Kelly Olynyk And then Derek Jones Jr., man, speaking of the Suns, and I believe that's why I got blocked.
Was it the Derek Jones?
I believe because I just I think I was like completely fed up by that point in time. And, I'd seen too much Tyson Chandler, and, then they did the Derek Jones thing. And I remember there was one Suns Twitter guy that just couldn't leave it alone, and maybe that was what it was. But
takes you back.
Look at him. Look at me now.
He's 21, by the way. He's 21 years old. He'll be 22 in February. 21 years old right now, this kid.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you or somebody else on Twitter that was mentioning just the surprise that other teams have when he's on the floor.
That was me. Yeah,
that made perfect sense to me.
Let me walk down that path again real quickly here, and then we'll talk about him. So
since it was your idea and all.
Well, it was something that jumped out to me. I've watched a few Heat games lately. I picked up Derek Jones Jr. In a league I'm in that has an IR spot when I put JV on my IR, and I thought, okay, I got to figure out something to do here. And I think what I need more than JV's scoring and his strong field goal or free throw percent, because I had some other pretty good free throw guys, was someone that could replace his field goal percent, get me some rebounds, and do some defensive stats. And at that point, I think Derek Jones Jr. had maybe 2 decent games under his belt. I think this was like around the 10th or 11th. It seemed a little bit fluky, I'll admit, because this is a guy that hadn't really done anything in his NBA career. And over 2 games, he had 15 points, 25 rebounds, 4 steals, and 5 block shots. And I did watch that game against the Lakers, where he had 3 and 3 in the defensive stuff. And I started to watch his games. I watched his game, the Miami-Utah game. I watched a little bit of their game with Memphis. I watched their New Orleans game. And then obviously last night, it was one of the only 2 games on TV. And the thing that jumped out to me, Brew, and it reminded me of my time in minor league baseball, and this is what I was tweeting about. When you watch young players in the minors, you can always just tell not all the guys that are going to make the big leagues, because a lot of guys do, and they just sort of will their way to the top with work ethic and skill, and you sort of put those things together. But there are those handful of guys, there's like 2 every year, that join your minor league baseball team, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, this one's an obvious one, because they're just like, they hit a ball and it goes poof when they hit it instead of when other people hit it. Or they're a pitcher, and when the ball smacks the catcher's mitt, there's this loud foomp instead of a teammate who throws a fastball and it goes thunk when it hits the catcher. There's these little things that you notice, and Derek Jones Jr. has that, where he's on the floor and you watch everybody go up for a rebound, and then there's just like a shoulder and a head that's above everybody else. And you're like, damn, who the hell's that guy? Or when he's playing defense and guys lose the ball to him, that's where the steals are coming from, because they're like, ain't no way he can touch this thing. And he gets a hand on it. It's sort of, it reminds me of Kawhi on the defensive side, but Kawhi does it with giant, like, first baseman glove-size hands. And Derek Jones Jr. does it because his arms are super long, and he's just quicker than everybody on the floor. And so there's this cool thing going on where he has a skill that's a click above the other best 150 people in the world. And when you see that and it jumps out at you, that's a guy that you kind of want to roll the dice on a little bit. So that was kind of what I was saying on Twitter in more words now on a podcast.
Absolutely. And it's so, in the past, I would say like however many 8 years ago, when I was really starting writing my fantasy articles, I just remember Kawhi Leonard, and everything just sort of popped off the screen, and Steven Jackson was the guy ahead of him, and everybody wanted to have Steven Jackson, but, it was like really obvious, like Kawhi is the better player here. And I'm not saying that Derek Jones Jr. is going to be Kawhi, but because he's a different style of player, and he's so damn vertical that, you just see him in more of a rim running role, but he's a really good shooter. And, who knows with this guy, so lanky, it's hard to imagine him getting in and out of a crossover dribble without it taking 5 years. But, they got that pop, and that's why it was crazy to see Phoenix just give up on him so they could re-sign Mike James, so they could do all this stupid stuff that they were doing at the time.
Bye-bye, McDonough. The McDonough days are done.
Well, it's hard to, McDonough, I'm not a big McDonough guy. He's got a lot of fans around the league because of his time in Boston, and, he's pretty connected in sports in general. That family is. But you got Sarver there, and anything with Sarver involved is not going to work.
Sorry, I took us off course. Miami.
Well, and there's actually one player I'd like to sneak in, a guy that I had the same thought the other day that I watched Derek Jones, and when I was watching Kawhi, same thought watching was Josh Okogie. This is a guy who there's enough there, I think, for him to be that, have that Kawhi-esque rise, and where people kind of go, wow, I didn't think that guy could shoot, and that's his big, liability right now. The only problem is he's not in San Antonio. If he was in San Antonio, I would feel a lot better about throwing my hat in the ring and saying he's got that kind of upside. But he has that kind of physicality, and you can teach these guys skills, and you just don't, under any circumstance, give up on a player with that type of upside.
So you add Derek Jones Jr. right now?
Yeah. I think you can't not do it. I mean, I got him in one league, and what sucked was I had a lot of good waiver wire pickups in some important leagues where he was like third on my list, and I got the top guy for whatever reason.
Yeah, good problem to have, I suppose.
It is, but yeah, I think he should be owned because he's the kind of guy that they can build around.
Are you still riding? Are you still riding with Kelly Olynyk as well? I am.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's got the upside. I think he makes that team better. I think they've realized that they can't play Hassan Whiteside, too many minutes, and who knows? Hassan Whiteside could be tradable, under the right situation, at the deadline. It's going to take a team that needs a big man. It's going to take a team with veterans that can handle Hassan. And it's going to take the Miami Heat taking on, something that they don't want to take on. But, if that ever happens, then they've got a real good 1-2 punch. They should just roll with Olynyk and Bam Adebayo and call it a day.
Yeah, and they won't. They won't, though. Okay. I want to do one more off my list and then get to the questions. I want to make them wait too much longer, and that's Chicago, because every week someone else is out for a month. Bobby Portis turned an ankle, and they were just like, "Boof, you're done. 4 weeks." Zach LaVine's thing went from day to day to week to I think it was 2 to 4 weeks from when it happened. So we're sitting on like a week to 3 weeks from now, roughly, something like maybe a little less than that in a best case scenario, but nothing with this team is going best case scenario. Does this force Jabari Parker back into the mix? Does this force Wendell Carter Jr. into a giant role for a short term? Can you continue to hold Bobby Portis if he really is going to miss another month? That's a tough one to stomach. Zach LaVine, you're obviously holding because the upside is way up there. But what are you doing with Portis? What are you doing with Wendell Carter Jr.? What are you doing with Jabari Parker?
So I guess let's go from easy to tough. Jabari Parker is somebody you can pick up on a lark as a streaming type option. I think this gives the Bulls a natural way to showcase him a little bit, though the thought did cross my mind. Do they do themselves a disservice by putting him on the floor so there's more film? I think there's enough film on Jabari Parker to know you don't want him necessarily on your basketball team. It's amazing. And I feel bad saying that, though, when he makes comments about not wanting to play defense and he doesn't play defense, I don't feel as bad. You feel for a guy who's got an ACL tear, it's an injury thing. But, if you also have that attitude that defense isn't important, well, then I stop feeling bad for you. He could get in there and they would love nothing more than for him to have a couple of offensive explosions, and then that could help them move him. So I think he's fine. Bobby Portis, I think, this is the tough part being an analyst and also being a fantasy owner in general, is you have to sort of bifurcate yourself from the past and what you have right now. So Bobby Portis had the knee injury, and they played things extraordinarily safe with him, and now he's back, and they're again going to play things extraordinarily safe because they're tanking, and he's going to be out. So now you're looking at Bobby Portis, the asset, but you have to bifurcate that from what happened in the beginning, because that's done. There's nothing, that's going to change what happened back then. So he's looking at, a 2 to 4 week absence. You're looking at a potential top 100 guy, with the news that Jabari Parker is probably on his way out. Yeah, that's a pretty good situation for him, especially if they don't play guys like Robin Lopez down the stretch or find a way to move Robin Lopez to a contender down the stretch. So I think he's stashable. He's not a must stash player.
Hey.
But you kind of got to just separate. So is it worth you keeping for 2 to 4 weeks Bobby Portis on your bench? It really just depends on the assets. I'd probably rather have Derek Jones Jr. right now. I want some upside, and Portis, unfortunately, right now doesn't have the upside. He might have it as the season goes on, but you're talking about top 80 upside. Wendell Carter Jr. I think you just got to hold. He's a good enough player, especially as games get less competitive and they unleash him. He could get out there and be a top 60 guy. I don't think you could let that go.
We got spammed in the chat room. I don't know what that's all about. So I'll be trying to deal with that as time comes.
We got spammed in the chat room.
Yeah, it's all being hidden right now because I think YouTube knows that it's spam, and so it might be hiding other people's questions. So I apologize for that. It's a weird thing. Never simple. Last quick question for you, Brew. Did you see my weird Joe Ingles stat that I found?
Yeah, I've been watching Ingles and noticing the lack of production there, but to see it just so isolated to home and away was a good dig.
Yeah, that was weird. It's big. It's a big gap. It's like a top 50 guy at home and like a top 200 guy on the road.
I don't have an explanation for that other than I think this team really needs to do something with Donovan Mitchell and make him understand his limitations, and because you look at these box scores on a night-to-night basis and they completely reflect a player that's not making other players better. And Ingles, maybe there's more pressure to win at home, so they go to him more often, but he is constantly deferring, and they're better when he's more involved. So I think you'll see a dichotomy of an Ingles game and a Mitchell game. But they're just really struggling. And if you're the one playmaker, you're Donovan Mitchell, you have to be good. You can't. And his efficiency's gone through the tank. He's one of the bigger busts of the second round. Because he's shooting 40%, and it's on him to get good shots. And what's weird is he hasn't developed anything since last year.
No.
So I don't know the injury in the playoffs, how much that really sidelined him and how much that's impacting him right now, or did he read his own press clippings, or what happened this summer? He can be good. He's just got to learn the finer points of making players get off balance and maybe stop relying so much on the athleticism.
Brew, what you got in your coffee cup today?
Dude, I'm so glad you asked. It's not Hawaiian Isles Kona coffee. You want to know why? Because Keurig makes a machine that lasts maybe 1.5 years. And granted, I'm an aggressive coffee drinker. I'll take that. But, for my coffee machine to go down, and to Keurig's credit, they're sending me a new one. And it's not just your run-of-the-mill Keurig. It's the industrial strength, should be in an office setting.
And they're just like, how many people are you using this on? You're like, one.
Just me. It's just me. Like, my wife barely drinks any coffee, compared to me. So
when that comes in, what will you be drinking?
I've been drinking Starbucks, man.
No.
It sucks.
Boo.
So it's just a mess right now. I have to take multiple trips to Starbucks per day.
No, not going to do it. Plus, every time you go to Starbucks, that's like one fewer hoopball DraftKings contest you can enter. Each coffee's like $3. That's terrible.
It is. And you know what? I'm also what really grinds my gears? I had a great lineup the other day. Just a great lineup. And Anthony Davis misses a quarter and still does good. And my damn Sacramento Kings dudes just farted all over the court, man. Just farted everywhere.
I got 9th. Did you see I placed? I won money in that one.
I know. Well, see, what these other DFS guys that they don't know is that when we get locked in, you and we're going to be weekly, top teners.
Because we're not okay with losing at stuff. That's probably the issue. We have a big problem.
We might have some mental issues to work through there.
Yes. Oh, we definitely do. It's why we do a show together.
But, hey, I like winning, so screw y'all.
Yeah. So I funded myself, so that's pretty good. Anyway, when Brew gets his new machine, then obviously, of course, it's back to Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee. Those of you out there that haven't tried it yet, do so. You can see their logo right here on our live YouTube window. It's down there on the bottom right. That's their lovely holiday logo. We're going to switch it back to the regular one next week. Go to HawaiianIsles.com, HawaiianIsles.com, where you can search for Hawaiian Isles on Amazon. Very easy to find on the internet. Old Glenn over there, he's kicking butt and taking names. It's so cool to have a partner that's in constant contact with us as well. So check them out. I know our staff has. They've gone crazy for it, and a lot of the premium subs and those of you in the chat room have talked about how much you like it. So please talk about it more at HI Kona Coffee on Twitter if you want to give them a holler and talk fantasy sports. They're happy to do that as well. Brew, you ready to talk about some questions from the chat room?
Yeah, I would love nothing more than that. And it's also funny because of Google's greatness. You sound like that guy from South Park that talks out of the hole in his mouth.
Oh, no. Hey, those of you in the chat room, am I sounding okay is the question. Let me know.
That is the question, yeah.
Let me know if anything's going weird.
But yeah, let's do this, Dan. I'm fired up.
All right. Sounds fine in my headset. That's what I can tell you right now. Both Brew and we both sound okay. The question is it going through? I can check to see stream quality via the YouTube thing. And since like 11:35, the stream quality is listed as good. So I think it's going out okay to you guys, but obviously let us know if something's getting a little goofy. First question today comes from Frank. Me and DeKangs don't talk no more, although as we learned last week, it's actually Frank, me, and DeKangs might talk at the end of the year. Who would you rather have on your team, Derek Jones or Tyler Johnson?
Derek Jones, because Tyler Johnson, we've seen his upside in 30 minutes per game, and it's generally about a top 110 value. So, if you missed out on the great Tyler Johnson run of 2018-19, I think you'll be able to live with it. Derek Jones, if things sort of materialize around him, and that's a big if at this point. I mean, I don't want to oversell it. I mean, we just don't know what his upside could be. It just would depend on how much he gets involved in the offense and then sort of what his role is for some of these other stats that aren't standing out so much, like rebounds, assists. I don't think he'll ever be a big assist guy, but the money counters are there. That's what makes the fantasy world go around. So I'm going to go Derek Jones.
Frank, you should have put these two questions in the same one. Now you got me all confused. Would Monte Morris jump over Derek Jones, or does he also slot in behind him?
He's got a lot of impediments to his fantasy value returning. So, as much as he has been good and will continue to play well, he's going to really take a hit. I don't think he's going to survive much. You've just got 3-4 big pieces that are coming back. So I'd put Monty Morris actually at the bottom of that list.
All right. Very good then. Next guy. That's Ben Carnado. He's a longtime watcher. This is like, you get the real diehards on the Friday before going into Christmas weekend. Christmas on Tuesday, of course. Brew, what's your take on Jim Boylan? Not Jim Boylan. He says, LOL, love that past show. I think this is a show maybe I didn't hear. Who's Jim Boylan?
I think that was on the Cause and Brew show. I'm not sure. Boylan. Yeah, I remember having some fun with that. The Jim Boylan experience in Chicago. It's funny because, look, we all understand where the hard-ass coach is coming from. These guys are not, especially this Bulls team. Zach LaVine hasn't earned anything. The Jabari Parker hasn't earned anything. I mean, none of these guys deserve to be, just playing this card of, we're all men here. And, that kind of goes without saying. But if you're just getting whomped, and you're playing the kind of basketball that I've watched them play all year, I'm sorry. I would side with Boylan. Now, that aside, reality-wise, he does have to chill out, and he also needs to kind of shut up a little bit. Like, being so open with the press just opens you to having quotes. Quotes can be made to sound any way the person doing the quote wants it to sound. So they can omit the first 5 words of the quote. They can omit the last 5 words of the quote. And just everything looks worse in print. So he just needs to chill out a little bit. I think it's funny. You kind of see it turning a little bit for Boylan, and maybe he can get in there and at least, make these guys a little bit more uncomfortable than they were under Fred Hoiberg, which was one of the chief criticisms that, Jimmy Butler had, was that Fred was just too nice of a guy. So It's Chicago, man. They go from the Penguin, Tom Thibodeau, to the mayor in Hoiberg, and now back to Tom Thibodeau. They just can't make up their minds.
Andre says, Dan, you're 33-10 on the year in wagers. That's cool.
Yeah, I saw that, man. It's, first of all, why am I not in on all of these? Second of all, that's an amazing number, man.
The second you jump in, it's all going to go to hell. I want you to know that, because nobody goes 33-10 forever. So eventually it's going to cool off. We're just trying some stuff. We're trying some stuff.
Yeah, I got to fade you now, and I don't want to do that.
No.
So can you lose a bunch real quick?
It might happen. It might happen today, because the revenge angles on today's card are just the kind that I'm sure everybody is looking for. Detroit is in Charlotte. That's on double revenge. They're catching 4, I think, right now. That one doesn't sound that horrible. The Bulls are on revenge against Orlando and only getting 3 points because the game is in Chicago, and I know that's going to be a nearly impossible wager for anybody to make. The Cleveland Cavaliers are getting 12.5 points in Toronto on a revenge game, which, by the way, might sound awful, but Toronto flies to Philly tomorrow, so there's a little bit of a look-ahead angle there, and also Toronto is extremely dinged up, and this might be one of those games where they just let a bad team hang around a little bit. Milwaukee is on revenge against the Celtics. They're actually going 2 games in Boston before they play in Milwaukee at all. I like the Bucks, but I'm also afraid because we saw what happened in the playoffs last year, where the home team in that series won all 7 games. The Hawks are on revenge against the Knicks. How badly do you want to put money on that basketball game? So this is the day it all comes crumbling down, Brew. I'm just putting
bet them all, Dan.
Yeah.
Bet them all.
I am.
Actually, don't do it, because your revenge angles also need to be faded.
Yeah, they can't go 33 or whatever it is. 16-6 or something like. I've got the number sitting around somewhere over the last couple of weeks. But oftentimes the hardest bets to make are the ones that end up winning. So I'll probably, put a couple dollars on each one just to have a little something going. So anyway, that's what's going on the betting side. Detroit for today? Yeah, they're on the list, man. Happy holidays and best to you guys. Keep up the good work. P.S. Me and Chef have a plan about hoopball vacations in Madeira. So apparently, Brew, we're going to Portugal. PJ Butter 12 says, head-to-head 9-category league. Would you stash Elfrid Payton? Is he a top 100 guy when he comes back?
In a 9-category league, even though he doesn't handle quite as much, he's getting close to worth stashing, just because there's been so much time that's passed since he's been sidelined here. So it's worth it, but it's not a mustache situation, and you're a little bit worried that he can't, huff it.
We got all sorts of weird stuff happening at the bottom of the chat room right now, so I can't wait to get to that. It's no longer weird spam messages from a fake YouTube account claiming that we have violations against our name. I looked into it. It's not real. I mean, we probably should, but we don't. Damian Lillard on one side of a trade, Bledsoe and Tobias Harris on the other side. Which one do you like? Give me Dame, baby. You know I like a 1 and a 2 for 1.
So, I'm going to end up refreshing my screen here and seeing if that clears up the sound issue. I heard Damian Lillard and Tobias Harris, and there's one other player on the other side. So
Damian Lillard is on one side, and the other side is Eric Bledsoe and Tobias Harris. So you got almost all of them before the glitch.
The price is right, I think, or it's close. You got 2 third-round guys that are mostly stable. Bledsoe's a little bit of an injury risk. Harris will probably be fine. For this is his year, and he's gunning for an all-star. We'll see if he gets it. It's doable, and I would say this: you do it if your team needs depth, and you don't do it if your team does not need depth, because that elite asset, it's really hard to duplicate, and really all you're doing by splitting it into 2 is giving yourself 2 different chances for injury risk rather than 1.
Beans says he's hoobing it. What's up, Beans? PJ Butter had one more. Fantasy playoff question. Do you start to trade for guys with better schedules at any point? By the way, I'll just throw my own hat into this one, and then, Brew, you can follow up on that. I don't really, because there's still so many question marks between now and then, guys that can get hurt. You can try to sort of game plan for this stuff. But unless you have someone who's just has, like, the worst playoff schedule ever, then it's not something that I'm gunning for too hard. Do you make preemptive moves very often?
Well, I should have made a preemptive move earlier because all I hit was a refresh button, and I hear you perfectly.
Ah, beautiful.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you probably need like a 2 to 3 game advantage in the playoffs for any sort of playoff-based move to be made. There's too many things, like you said, that could happen. So I do respect those, though, that draft based on it and also make these moves. And, you know, I respect them because a lot of times the other person doesn't know that that's what's really at the heart of it. So you do get a hidden value in there of up to like a round or two that the other guy just simply doesn't know about. So while I'm going to poo-poo the idea, I'm also going to say, you know what, go forward with a little bit. Just don't get too crazy with your moves.
Don't get too crazy. PJ Butter, by the way, when the playoffs actually come around, I do a lot of daily streaming in my head-to-head league. So that's that would be the last one, but that happens usually the couple days leading up to it. The Hibachi says 20-team, 8 roster spot league. So this is about 2/3 the way to our 30 deep. Jeff Teague is out for next week. I have LeVert on my IR, close playoff race. Do I drop LeVert or do I just ride this thing out? I mean, 20-team, I feel like you got to sit on him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to get ahead of this too much, but everything's been positive about him. And I don't think that they're going to, like with this type of injury, to me, it doesn't feel like it's going to be this like Zach LaVine coming off an ACL. I mean, maybe they do give him the back-to-back treatment, but it feels like if they were going to give him the back-to-back treatment, they'd just hold him out, you know? So with the way that they're reporting this out of Brooklyn, it feels like he could be back within about 4 to 6 weeks. And maybe they target the All-Star break, who knows? But that's a top 50 potential guy. Probably top 75 is the better way to plan around that. And in your league, as well as many leagues, you know, that's worth hanging on to.
Ben says, is Robert Williams Mitchell Robinson, but with more opportunity? I mean, is it really more opportunity? Because Al Horford's going to come back eventually. But what do you think about Robert Williams in Boston?
I think you nailed it there. Like, he's going to have that opportunity until Al Horford gets back. Maybe he parlays this into Aaron Baines's minutes, and from there you're asking, can he be the latest iteration of a 15-minute per game guy that gives you top 150 value? I'm going to probably bet against that. So I don't think, unless you're in like an 18 to 20 team league, that it's worth considering him anything other than a stopgap solution.
Should I be selling high on Larry Nance? I think I'm a yes on that one.
I mean, it's a smart by-the-book play. So there's rationale there. And if you did it, I would not laugh at you. What my wonder is here is, is he like one of their favorite players from a marketing perspective? And if so, are they giving him the keys to the car as long as he's healthy? And can he therefore dodge the return of Tristan Thompson eventually, and, all of the different things that you would be worried about? He's an injury risk. I mean, it's a buy the book, sell high play, but I just kind of feel like Cleveland wants him on the floor. And, as long as he's on the floor, he's going to be a top 100 guy.
That was Josh D, by the way. Josh D has a second question. Should I bother stashing Markelle Fultz? Is there any way he gets back this year with any other team and has value? I think I'm a no on this one.
There's too much there. There's no way. I don't think that he gets back in any meaningful capacity this year. He would have to get traded to the Suns, and they would have to turn their entire team over to him. It's really way too iffy. So no.
Should I try to flip Bogdan Bogdanovic? I guess in all things, the answer to that is depends who you get, right?
It really does. I'll just say this about him. I mean, there's going to be some maintenance games off, and it's very intriguing how the Kings handle maintenance games off right now. They have been not been very strategic about it, and you just kind of wonder who's making the calls there for that. Bogey's going to be just an amazing fantasy asset when he's healthy and on the floor. He's got a top 50 upside. He's really good. Sweet shooting stat set. He needs the volume to climb the ranks, but I think top 75 while he's on the floor is almost an easy call.
Jim says, good afternoon, gentlemen. What's up, Jim? Roberto says, happy holidays. Happy holidays. What's going on with Nico Mirotic? That's a good question.
Pissing me off is
Yeah.
what's going on. I mean, 3 weeks of this after just being so great, set it and forget it. But you did see the outlines of this, not just this early this year where he's hobbling around, but in the playoffs last year, he's been getting banged up. You know, and that's part of playing, you know, downsized in the NBA when you're, you know, he's really like he is a 4. But, you know, he gets a lot of minutes at the 5. He plays a lot in the paint. You know, he's put on some weight, so he's banging down there. And, yeah, he's dealing with it right now. So it's a bummer. And you just never know in small markets, but New Orleans has been one of them for years, what the injury situation is like. He's been out a while. I think, did we say this on last week's show? There was a report. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had this conversation. There was a report that, you know, he basically pulled himself out. And it's not very typical of him. So you just hope it's not the dreaded high ankle, you know. This happened with Tobias Harris in Orlando once where he was just day-to-day for frickin' 6 weeks or something, and it really killed a lot of fantasy owners. You don't know. Just don't be like me and accidentally put him in your lineup. That's just stupid, man.
Because if you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
Is Jonas Valanciunas worth my second injured reserve spot? I'm going to say yes. I was able to pick up Rob Covington. I didn't even throw that one to you because you're going to say yes on that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was able to pick up Rob Covington. My God, man. Well, I don't know why you need us for the rest of your league because you should just be rolling these clowns.
Can we join your league?
Yeah. Brew and I would like to share a team in your league, and we'd like to increase the buy-in to $14,000 a person. What are your thoughts on Mo Harkless? This is my fault, Brew, because I've been mentioning him as a guy I've got one eye on this podcast, but I haven't actually asked you about him.
We did it in the blurbs too.
Yeah,
it's he's on the cusp of being worth watching. He's got a top 100 upside in 9 cat leagues, and it's not like Portland has guys that do what he does. So. It just is his health. Can he be healthy? And then there's a second question of whether or not he can be effective. So a few questions there. I don't think in 12-team leagues you're adding him. I don't think in 14-team leagues you're adding him. In 16 you might. And I think that's, in 14 is when you're watching. He's got to be on a watch list. 14-team 9-cat league and a 16-team 8-cat league right now.
Yeah, he's a sort of one. He's a guy that I put in my, and I'm trying to come up with the right name for it, the Thad Marvin rule, which is if they can hit 30 minutes, then they can just sort of slow roll up enough of the okay statistics to cover up for the fact that they're super low usage. You got to help me come up with a.
He's a D-bomb, dude.
Yeah, he's an old man squad. I literally just offered the Nico owner a deal he couldn't refuse, and he refused it. It's impossible to make a deal in this league. This is unbelievable. Sorry, Beans. Find yourself some new league mates, I guess, because that sounds annoying. Will we ever see consistency from Jonathan Isaac, from Good Guy in Sports? That's a good-ass question, Good Guy in Sports. My answer is, I freaking hope so. Brew?
I don't think so because, okay, let's look at this pragmatically. We're talking about his core competency is money counting stats. A good game is a 1 in each of those categories. So, I mean, if you're averaging a 111, that's considered good. And for a low usage guy, that's kind of like the cut line. If he can get over 3, then he's good. If he can't get over 3, he's not. And so what are we talking about here? One game he gets 2, one game he gets 0. That equals a 111 guy. So that alone makes it tough. And then with being a low usage guy, your scoring can look really ugly on any given night. And if you combine the two, you could have some bad nights and then you have some good nights. It's really what's key is what the averages are. And, with him, he's got just so much freaking potential. It is like really, it's going to be on Orlando at some point to force the action to him. And I think you'll start to see that at a minimum after the All-Star break. Right now they're still mostly healthy. And, the Aaron Gordon thing is not great for them. He's had a decent season, but he needs to be a little bit less of an offensive facilitator and more of a cutter slasher finisher. And that would allow for more space to, for some just easy shots for Jonathan Isaac, some kick out, DJ Augustine hook pass to Jonathan Isaac in the corner for 3, that kind of stuff that can get him going. But I do expect him to see him a little bit more off the dribble after the All-Star break and a little bit more involved in the offense in general.
I'm looking for the most upside for the rest of the season of these 5 guys. Who was your one favorite upside play? Just we only have to pick one. Thank you, Abby. That's actually helpful. Derek White, Mchale Bridges, Cedi Osman, Jeremy Lin, or Thomas Bryant. Is it Bridges? Did I guess right?
Yeah, I think it is Bridges, just because, the minutes are going to be there. He's got more talent than Thomas Bryant, and so talent wins out there. Yeah, it's going to get a little bit crowded, but, Mchale Bridges is so close to being a good fantasy asset. He just has to get the ball in his hands and then get, that sort of confidence built that he can be a part of the offense. He has all the tools to be an efficient two-way player, and you're just seeing, he's kind of like a little deer out there. He's a little undersized for what I would like to see as far as like a lockdown perimeter defender goes, but he's going to be out there for defensive purposes. I think that he puts it all together. You're looking at a top 50 guy. But I don't think that's going to happen this year, though. I'll just throw that out there.
What round would you target CP3? Like if you were gonna have the stones to buy on Chris Paul, what type of guy would you throw out? Like a top 50?
Yeah, I'd be a top 50 guy that's got all sorts of injury risk.
So not many is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough spot to be in. I mean,
yeah.
he's good. He's had a good fantasy year. He's top 24,
and he with a room to grow because his percentages were all way down from his career marks. But yeah, I mean, you got it. And now would be the time too, right? When CP3 owners are like, this again. If you can sit on him for 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is, I mean, you might be able to get.
He didn't have the name CP3. If he had the name of any other player that's in that realm, but it's Chris Paul. He's been a top 3 fantasy guy for freaking a decade.
I think I might roll the dice, but I'm feeling.
Yeah,
saucy.
no, it's a great put it this way. This is what champions are made of.
Go get it, son.
But you gotta, you're gonna get a top 25 guy. You can pitch a top 50 guy with injury risk and try to make it happen. If you're in a playoff league, I probably don't do it though.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's throw that in there. Brew and I generally are talking about roto when we're doing stuff like this, so if you're in a playoff format, grain of salt type stuff. But, like Otto Porter's number 46. Tough to sell him right now. John Wall is 45 in 9-cat. That's an interesting one to throw into the mix. Buddy Hield is 44. I'm just looking at guys around that mark. Maybe you go past 50 for, let's see, Blake Griffin is 55. That's a lot of name value with an injury risk. There's an interesting one.
That would be a good one right there.
Otto Porter, the rest of the season, we talked about him earlier in the show. So, Ruka, I wanted to make sure we're not avoiding your question. If you go back and you listen to the beginning of the podcast, the Wizards were actually the first thing we talked about. Dylan said, Blake and Vooch have exceeded my highest expectations. It's funny, we actually just mentioned Blake. Which of the two would you be more willing to sell high and why? It's a points format, by the way, so that does change things a little bit. But, Brew, I think for me it's still Blake just because he could go down for 8 weeks at any moment.
Yeah, I mean, in a points format, he gets really deadly. Vooch, probably right on his heels. I'll go with the Blake Griffin's the guy that you want to move on from. He's got that injury risk, and aside from that, though, he's going to be a really good points league guy. I don't know what your negatives are for missed shots and all that good stuff, but yeah, I'll go with Blake begrudgingly in this situation. And Vooch, I'm not worried about any slowdown.
We are, by the way, at exactly the 2-minute mark. We got like 3 questions here, so we're going max lightning for 3. You ready for max lightning?
Strap yourself in and feel the G's.
Montrezl Harrell. Oh, wait. This was a trade that was proposed. Never mind. We don't even have to cover that one. Outstanding. Would you trade Myles Turner for Rob Covington in a Dynasty league? It's 8-cat.
No, give me Myles Turner. I'm really worried about Robert Covington's knee as well as Tom Thibodeau.
The Miracle Man chimes in, says, I'm actually awake while you guys are live. I'm betting all of your picks. Vince, you madman. The great Vince Miracle, by the way. The great Vince Miracle. What's up?
Hey, you can see him down at Thunder Valley, I hear.
That's right. You got to go in the middle of the night, though. Wake up, Vince.
You gotta go when all the NBA guys are down there.
That's a good point. I forget Vince, who was the guy you saw? Put it in the chat room. I'll try to throw it in there before we're done. And that actually was it, because 2 of the things that I thought were questions turned out to be chat rumors just talking about trade stuff.
Oh, hey, Vince, we got a hoop in the studio now, so you don't want me to end up schooling you again. So I wouldn't show up if I were you.
Oh, wait, I did have one. Olynyk, Mchale Bridges, Joe Harris. Rank those guys.
Olynyk, Joe Harris, and who?
Mchale Bridges was the last one.
You know, Joe Harris is sneaky, man. Not sneaky for hoopball readers. We've known about Joe Harris. If your team needed a small forward, if they didn't shop for Joe Harris, you might want to be a hoopball subscriber. Top 100, man. And you know what? You can put him ahead of Kelly Olynyk because of that. Because, yeah, Olynyk can get you top 60 when he's rolling well. How likely is that? You know, there's some safety there with Joe Harris, especially because of the signing of the contract extension for Spencer Dinwiddie. If you look and squint, like a little bit harder, you could see a future without D'Angelo Russell there. So Joe Harris would become even more valuable in that circumstance. So I like Harris over Olynyk. And unfortunately, you know, Bridges, with all that upside, as much as we love him, we're trying to hang on here. It's just there's so many risks to his value. So I'll put him 3rd in that list.
Aaron Bruski, have a wonderful weekend. I think I'm going to talk to you before Tuesday, but if not, a Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you, sir. And you have to school me, man. I don't understand Hanukkah.
It's over. It's over. We just have so many branches of family. It's over. Yeah, it's 8 days long, and we celebrated it for like 15 out here.
For next year, can you like walk me through the steps so I become a more knowledgeable human being?
Yeah, we just light a different number of candles every night. That's basically all you need to know.
All right, but I still want to be there. I still want to know what's going on because I feel completely blind here.
All right, we're gonna hoopball Hanukkah. We're gonna do a hoopball Hanukkah.
Exactly. There we go.
Hoopball
yeah, no. Enjoy. You guys, what do you do for Christmas then? Do you guys just like order Chinese?
Yep, that's right. That's right. It's very true. Japanese restaurants are actually open in our neighborhood too, so we got choices. Bubba, we got choices.
You guys get to relax, man. You guys are done.
It's a beautiful thing. My wife's birthday is the 24th though, so nobody's relaxing over here. We got
you know we actually my wife's birthday is on Christmas.
Yeah.
So we get hit hard here at Hoopball Central.
Yeah, if you see the 2 of us disappear, it's because we actually have other things going on for once. I know. Can you believe it? Vince, by the way, clarifying, it was Damari Carroll and Eric Gordon that were down there at the casino.
That's some serious knowledge right there.
There you go. That's it, guys. That's the weekend, man. We're rolling into it. Show will continue next week. We're back on Monday with a reverse chronological lightning round and a little more from Chicago Bulls land. We got a little second interview with the Blog of Bulls guys. That's coming up on Monday. He's Aaron Bruski. I'm Dan Besbris. This is Fantasy NBA Today Live, brought to you by Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter. You know all the places. We're past this. We'll talk to you Monday. And this is where Dan figures out how to turn